A video update on this Tuesday midday, December the 17th, coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with a big Zelensky curse day. The Zelensky curse hit Germany and it hit Canada yesterday. And let's start things off with what happened in Germany, where the government of Pirate Scholz, they called a confidence vote, which they lost. And they had to call a confidence vote because in November, the FDP party dropped out of the traffic light coalition. And this left the government with the Social Democrats, the SPD, and the Green Party in government. So it was a minority government that was ruling. Scholz had to call a confidence vote. As expected, he lost the confidence vote, and most likely we will be getting elections in Germany probably on February 23rd. That is when the president of Germany will most likely set the date for elections, and we are going to see a new chancellor, which will probably be BlackRock Merz, the CDU-CSU. Friedrich Merz will probably be the new chancellor of Germany. And he will probably have to enter into a coalition, most likely with the SPD, with Pirate Scholz. So that's probably how everything is going to play out in Germany in the next couple of months. But it's going to take some time. From what I understand, we're going to have elections. If we have elections in late February, then it's going to take some time for a coalition to form. And in the interim, Pirate Scholz will be the chancellor. He will be the caretaker interim chancellor until a new government is formed after the elections. This may actually take up until March or April. So Scholz will still be running things in Germany for a while. But that's the situation in Germany. The Zelensky curse, bringing down the traffic light coalition, bringing down the Pirate Scholz. Yep, not even a pirate is strong enough against the Zelensky curse. And all of this is because of Germany's support for Project Ukraine and the sanctions that it placed on Russia. That is why the German economy is sinking. That is why German industry is leaving the country. That is why German industry can't compete anymore with China. Zero Hedge has an article with the title, "The Timing is Absolutely Terrible. German Government Collapses Just 1 Week After French Implosion." And in this article, Zero Hedge writes, German lawmakers voted to dissolve the existing government by a vote of 394 to 207, with 116 abstaining. The collapse of the government just 9 months before elections had been scheduled was an extraordinary moment for Germany, once Europe's powerhouse, but now a laughingstock at the mercy of both China and Russia. This will be only the fourth snap election in the 75 years since the modern state was founded, and it reflected a new era of more fractious and unstable politics in a country long known for durable coalitions built on plotting consensus. Merz talks a tough game against Russia. He talks about Taurus missiles going to the Zelensky regime. He talks about continuing the conflict in Ukraine and how Scholz did not provide enough support to the Zelensky regime. So Merz talks about escalation and being even tougher on Russia. But the reality is that what has brought the Scholz government down and what will cause problems for the CDU-CSU government of Merz is the fact that they continue to escalate with Russia. They continue the sanctions against Russia. The humiliation of Nord Stream. Who can forget the press conference with Scholz and Bidenopoulos where Biden said that he's going to take care of Nord Stream, Scholz standing right next to him. This is what has brought down the German government. The support for Project Ukraine and going against Russia. And Merz, at least if you believe everything that he has been saying, he will be even more hawkish against Russia. So we will see what awaits Germany. But their economy has suffered supporting Project Ukraine. 4 years ago, when I was in Moscow, there were a lot of German cars. A lot of German cars. Recently, when I went to Moscow, about 6 months ago, a lot of Chinese cars. A lot of Chinese cars. 4 years ago, no Chinese cars. A lot of German cars. Now, a lot of Chinese cars. Many more Chinese cars than German cars. I think that sums up what has happened in Germany because of its support for the Green Goblin. Destroying your country for the Green Goblin. Who could have ever picked that one, huh? The powerhouse that is Germany destroys itself in support of a failed Ukraine, of a losing Ukraine. So that takes us to Canada and the resignation of Freeland, someone who is very close, has family ties to Project Ukraine, a very close supporter of the Zelensky regime, maybe even a closer supporter of the Zelensky regime than Trudeau himself, Freeland. She resigned from the Trudeau government. His finance minister, his deputy prime minister, the person that many people believe was actually calling the shots in Trudeau's government. She resigns just 2 hours or a couple of hours before she was going to present the budget to Parliament, from what I understand. And she resigned. The reports are that Trudeau wanted to remove her as finance minister and give her another position in his cabinet, a position which didn't carry much authority. And instead of her accepting this change in her position, she just said, screw it, I'm going to resign instead. And her resignation letter absolutely buries Trudeau. I mean, buries him. And so she resigns a couple of hours before she's about to present the budget. From what I read, the person that was underneath Freeland that was going to take over as finance minister also resigned. I think I have this correct. And then it left Trudeau scrambling to look for a finance minister. And he picked someone who was in a different ministry, in a different government ministry, appointed this person as finance minister, someone goes by the name of LeBlanc. LeBlanc was then appointed as finance minister. He actually presents the budget, tables the budget. We have a $60 billion deficit. Trudeau's coalition partner, the NDP, led by Singh, they come out with a statement and they say that Trudeau needs to step down. 7 ministers in Trudeau's Liberal Party also come out and say that Trudeau needs to go. And the Conservative Party, which is slated to win in the next elections, they say that Canada needs elections. What a freaking mess, man. What a mess. But Trudeau is hanging on. Trudeau did not step down after all of this chaos that was going on yesterday, because the Zelensky curse just hammered the Trudeau government yesterday. We are talking a big time hammering at the hands of the Zelensky curse, man. Wow, a lot of chaos, but Trudeau did not step down. He was, there were a lot of rumors saying that he was going to step down, but he didn't. And the thinking is that Trudeau is going to give it some time because the parliament will go into recess for the Christmas break, and Trudeau is probably calculating that if he gives it some time, let the parliament go into recess, this chaos will die down and calm down a bit, and then he can figure out a way to stay on as prime minister and as the leader of the Liberal Party. So this is what the CBC is reporting from yesterday's chaotic events in Canada. At a caucus meeting, some Liberal MPs tell the Prime Minister he has to step down after Chrystia Freeland's shock resignation. Trudeau says he will take time to reflect on caucus concerns, sources say. At least 7 Liberal MPs, including a former cabinet minister, publicly say Trudeau must resign. Public Safety Minister Dominique LeBlanc has been sworn in as Canada's new finance minister. Despite the drama, fall economic statement was tabled, showing a big deficit of more than $60 billion. Freeland says the prime minister told her Friday he no longer wanted her to serve as finance minister. Rather than accept a job change, Freeland resigned Monday. In a letter to Trudeau announcing her resignation, Freeland denounced Trudeau's costly political gimmicks. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says Trudeau must call an election right away. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says Trudeau must resign. NDP House leader Peter Julian tells CBC News the party will vote non-confidence in the Liberal government if Trudeau stays on into the new year. And he needs the NDP to stay in government. If the NDP abandons Trudeau, then what? Trudeau is finished. He has to call elections. And he may not even be the person leading the Liberals in elections. His own party is fractured or fracturing. They don't want Trudeau either, because Trudeau's going to lose. If you look at the polling numbers, Trudeau's going to lose big time. So they have to pull a type of Harris stunt, right? Get rid of Trudeau and put someone else in instead of Trudeau, in the hopes that they'll be able to come out a bit better in the elections than if Trudeau were to run. What a day's events in Canada, huh? Why is all of this happening? The Zelensky curse, everyone. I'm telling you, it's the Zelensky curse. You know, all of these guys, they all, 3 years ago, they all came up, the Collective West leaders, they came up with a clever idea, a clever plan to provoke Russia into a conflict with Ukraine, to get regime change in Russia, remove Putin, balkanize the Russian Federation, and then exploit Russia's wealth and resources. That was the plan. And they all signed up to it, all of them. Pirate Scholz, Trudeau, Freeland. You know, Freeland loved this idea. Biden led the charge. Ursula was right there next to Biden. She made a trip to DC in October, November of 2021, and they plotted out the whole sanctions policy. The United States and the EU, they put everything in place for the sanctions that they were going to launch against Russia to completely cripple and destroy the Russian economy. That's what this is all about. They've turned the world upside down for Project Ukraine. A conflict which they have now lost, which they are losing badly and will lose decisively. And now Trump is entering the White House. He's talking about 25% tariffs. Trump does not like, well, he doesn't like Trudeau, but he especially does not like Freeland, which is why I believe Trudeau told Freeland to go to another government ministry, Freeland said, screw that. I'm just going to resign. I'm going to write this letter, which is going to bury you even further, Justin. And there you have it. Trump actually posted on Truth Social, the great state of Canada is stunned as the finance minister resigns or was fired from her position by Governor Justin Trudeau. Her behavior was totally toxic and not at all conducive to making deals which are good for the very unhappy citizens of Canada. She will not be missed. Trump wants the conservatives in. That's what he wants. He wants the government of Trudeau, the Liberals, he wants them out. He wants them all gone. And he wants to deal with the Conservative Party. Crystal clear what's going on. And it's working. Trump's trolling, what Trump is doing, his trolling is actually freaking working. He laid out the trap for Trudeau, the 25% tariffs, and Trudeau stepped right into it. Flew to Mar-a-Lago, begged Trump to not place the tariffs, came back to Canada, and everything unraveled. Because Trudeau looked weak. He panicked and looked weak. Amazing day yesterday, an absolutely amazing day. So Trump was speaking to the media yesterday in what could be considered his first press conference, I guess you would say, a mini press conference. But he said a lot of interesting things. He was asked about what's going on in Syria, and Trump gave his opinion that Turkey is behind a lot of what is happening in Syria. He said that Turkey has wanted this territory for 1,000 years, and Erdogan got it. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Erdogan and Turkey, they're building up their forces right on the border with Syria in preparation for what could be a decisive end to the presence of the Kurds. And that's the problem. If the U.S. leaves Syria, then it leaves the Kurds all by themselves, and they're finished if they don't have the U.S.'s protection and support. The Wall Street Journal article says U.S. fears military buildup by Turkey signals preparations for incursion into Syria. Kurdish officials are urging Trump to press Ankara to head off an invasion. Look, Erdogan has said it many times, many times, that for him, a presence of Kurds, the presence of the Kurds in Syria or anywhere, is of a type of Kurdish state, is an existential threat for him. He said it for many years now, and the only thing that has been keeping the Kurds in Syria there is the protection of the United States. Once that goes, Turkey's going to make their moves. They may even make their moves before Trump gets into office. Blinken traveled to Ankara, and Turkey didn't really take Blinken seriously because he was there to talk to Turkey about the Kurds in Syria, trying to get to some sort of an agreement or some sort of a ceasefire between Turkish forces and the U.S.-backed Kurdish forces. Politico, they were talking about, they were reporting on what Trump said about Turkey, and they have a title, Trump says Turkey orchestrated Assad's overthrow in Syria. U.S. President-elect said Turkish President Erdogan conducted an unfriendly takeover of Syria, which Turkey has wanted for thousands of years. And they quote Trump in the article, those people that went in are controlled by Turkey. Trump said during the event, his first press conference since winning the presidential election in November, and that's okay. That's another way to fight. Trump was also asked about the invitation of Zelensky to the January 20th inauguration, and Trump said that he has not invited Zelensky to the inauguration, but he also said if Zelensky wants to come, he can come. Trump said, I'm fine with that. So he didn't invite him, but if Zelensky wants to kind of crash the the inauguration event. Go ahead, come on in, come on in to the inauguration party, Zelensky. That was quite an interesting quote from Trump. Zelensky's probably listening to this press conference, this statement from Trump with Podolyak. Zelensky's saying, Podolyak, what is this? Is this invite or is this not invitation? I don't understand. Are we invited to go to America or not? What do we do, Podolyak? Maybe I just show up to inauguration party. They will let me in, right, Podolyak? They will let me in. Yeah, that was an interesting statement. And he was asked about the long-range missile strikes into Russia, the U.S. long-range missile strikes into Russian territory. And Trump once again said that he doesn't like it. He said he is not in favor of the United States launching missiles into Russian territory. This is the second or third time that we now have Trump on record saying that he is absolutely against the United States sending missiles into Russia. He also said that when it comes to China, the U.S. and China, they can solve many of the world's problems together. The United States and China can solve, I believe he said, all of the world's problems, actually, which is an interesting statement. A positive statement. I would take it as a positive statement. Maybe Trump is looking to work with China so that they can indeed solve many of the world's problems. The United States and BRICS could absolutely solve most of the world's problems. I don't want to say all of the world's problems, but the United States and BRICS could definitely solve many of the world's problems. And he was asked about the mystery drones as well. And Trump said that the government, the U.S. government, the Biden White House, absolutely knows what these drones are, but they're not telling anybody. They're not doing anything about it. A couple of days ago, Trump posted on Truth Social to shoot down those drones, but the United States government, the Biden White House, the Pentagon, they would never shoot down drones that they are launching into the skies above New Jersey, would they? Why would they shoot down their own drones? You can't do that. So they know what these drones are, according to Trump, but they're not telling us. Why are they not telling us? That is the million-dollar question. But you know these are U.S. government drones, because if they were not U.S. government drones, then they would have shot down these drones. So that's how you know these are Pentagon, Biden White House drones. So the other big story for today, which is breaking news, is that the SBU, the Ukraine Intel SBU, they assassinated the Russian general who was the head of the chemicals and biolab department in Russia, in Moscow. I believe they placed a bomb in a scooter, and the Kirillov is his name, General Kirillov, and he was leaving a building with his assistant, and the scooter bomb was detonated, and he was killed along with his assistant. This is the guy that the general that you would see in many of the events where Russia was talking about the chemical weapons and biolabs in Ukraine, and talking about the U.S. funded biolabs. This is the guy that would give the presentations. You know who I'm talking about. I know everyone knows who I'm talking about. This is who the SBU killed. And why do I say the SBU, Ukraine, killed them? Because they have claimed responsibility from the Kiev Independent. SBU behind killing of Russian general charged with chemical weapons crimes, source claims. Now, from what I read just yesterday, Ukraine, they charged the general with using chemical weapons in the conflict in Ukraine. This happened. One second, let me see if I have this bookmarked. This happened just yesterday, and then today we get this explosion. The explosion that killed the head of the ABC protection troops was caused by an explosive device planted in a scooter, the investigative committee reported, the Russian investigative committee. The Ukrainian SBU brought charges in absentia against him, against Kirillov. It is likely them. Yeah, they've claimed responsibility for this. They tried him yesterday, they charged him, and then today the SBU killed him. A decapitation strike. That's what this was. That's an act of terrorism, without a doubt, an act of terrorism, and a decapitation strike. Ukraine, decapitation strike against a Russian general and the head of the biolabs and the chemical weapons department directorate in Russia. What's Russia going to do? How are they going to retaliate? Honestly, they're probably not going to retaliate right away. We've had many decapitation strikes from the Zelensky regime, from the SBU. They've assassinated quite a lot of military officials over the past 3 years. I want to say a half a dozen, or maybe even a dozen military officials have been killed by the Ukrainian intel services, the SBU, Budanov, all of these guys, as well as journalists. We also have the Crocus terrorist attack, and we haven't really seen any type of Russia retaliation against the people that are allegedly behind these attacks. I don't know how Russia's going to retaliate. My sense is that you're not going to see anything immediate, or if you do see anything immediate, it will probably be in the form of missiles and drone strikes into Ukraine, perhaps taken out a military facility or an SBU facility. But actually going after the people behind these organizations who are actually ordering the hits on these officials. I have to be honest with you guys. I don't think we're going to see anything immediate. Maybe over the next couple of years, Russia will bring these people to justice, but hard to say. They have claimed responsibility for this, though. Straight from the Kiev Independent, the SBU. They are actually bragging about this. So that's big news, very big news. And foreign policy and The Economist, Foreign Policy magazine publication, and The Economist publication, they posted some interesting stories, news about what is going on in Ukraine. Foreign Policy, they put out an article with the title, "Keep Ukraine Out of Talks to End Its War. The Trump administration needs to engage Moscow and avoid at first involving Ukraine." This article is interesting. I bring up this article from Foreign Policy. These are both neocon publications. But I bring up this article from Foreign Policy because this is as close as you're going to get to the collective West, the neocons, saying that this is a conflict between the United States and Russia and has nothing to do with Ukraine. This entire article talks about how the Trump administration, the United States, needs to at first iron things out with Russia, negotiate with Russia. Ukraine should not even be brought into the negotiations. And then once they iron things out with Russia, then you can bring Ukraine and the EU into whatever you've agreed on with Russia. That's the argument that they're making. You don't need Ukraine. You don't really even need the EU. This is a conflict between the United States and Russia, and they're the ones that should be negotiating. They don't quite say it like I'm saying it, but that's what this article is really about. An admission that this is a war between the United States and the Russian Federation. In the article, Foreign Policy actually admits that it is the United States that is behind the missile strikes into Russian territory. It's only the United States that can launch missiles into Russian territory. Here's what Foreign Policy writes in this article. Today, key aspects of the Russian demand for limits on the Ukrainian armed forces depend on the United States, since it is only the United States that can provide Ukraine with long-range missiles and the intelligence to guide them. Since it is only the United States that can provide the intelligence to guide the missiles, that can provide the long-range missiles and the intelligence to guide them. And when they mean long-range missiles, they're talking about ATACMS, they're talking about Scout missiles, they're talking about Storm Shadow missiles. This is as close as you're going to get to an admission from the collective West, from the neocons, that the missiles being fired into Russia is absolutely coming from the U.S. Ukraine may be pressing the button, but everything else is the United States. The United States is attacking Russia. That's basically what they're saying in this excerpt that I just read from this article. And The Economist, they posted an article with the title, Ukrainian Troops Celebrate a Grim Christmas in Kursk. A local paper braves Russian bombs to deliver news on the front lines. This article is interesting because it not only reveals that Ukraine in Kursk is losing badly, and they've lost more than 50% of the initial territory that they had captured in their stupid incursion into Russia, but it also admits that the Russian military is about to encircle Ukrainian troops in Kursk, and this is going to be a catastrophe for the Zelensky regime. So we're getting the first admission from a collective West media neocon publication that the Ukraine military in Kursk is about to be encircled and annihilated in a cauldron. So the EU they approved the 15th sanctions package against Russia. And in this sanctions package, they're not only sanctioning Russian oil, which is going to hurt the EU economies, cause inflation, increase prices, but what do they care? What do they care if they hurt the EU economies, Ursula and the European Commission? As long as they can stick it to Putin, they're happy. But they're also sanctioning Chinese companies. In the 15th sanctions package, they have now sanctioned Chinese companies, Chinese businesses, Chinese individuals who they claim are helping Putin's war machine and helping Russia circumvent all of the 14 previous sanctions packages. They were going to sanction Georgia as well, because Georgia decided to vote a party and to vote a party that the EU does not approve of, the Georgia Dream. And because the EU does not approve of the Georgia Dream, they were going to sanction Georgian officials. But you know who vetoed the sanctions that were going to be placed on Georgia? Hungary and Slovakia. They stepped in and said, no, you are not going to sanction Georgia Dream. You're not going to sanction Georgia Dream party officials and government officials. Enough of this nonsense. And they blocked the EU sanctions that were going to be placed on Georgia. Good on you, Hungary and Slovakia. Kaja Kallas said that the European Union will lift sanctions on Syria if Syria kicks out Russia from their bases. You have to remove Russia from Syria, the Russian bases, and then we're going to lift sanctions, EU sanctions on you, Syria. That is what Kaja Kallas is telling the Al-Jolani HTS Turkish government in Damascus. Turkish government, Turkish-controlled government in Damascus, represented by by head chopper Al-Jolani. The EU knows that Russia's going to eventually leave those bases on its own. Russia's going to make the decision on its own, even though Turkey is signaling that they want the Russian bases in Syria for various reasons, which I've talked about on this channel, and we've discussed this on Duran as well. Erdogan has signaled that he would like Russia to stay in Syria. It does look like Russia is going to make the decision on its own that it's going to leave those bases. And the EU understands this. They know this. They got a whiff of this. And they're now telling Syria, they're trying to look tough. Kaja Kallas is trying to look tough, and she's telling Syria, we'll lift those sanctions, but first Russia has to go, because she knows that eventually Russia's going to go. And then she could present this as some sort of diplomacy win. The stunning and brave and tough Kaja Kallas laid down the conditions to lift sanctions to the HTS government in Damascus, and they complied with Kaja Kallas' demands. She's a tough diplomat, that Kaja Kallas. So let's do a clown world, and we will wrap this video up. Since we're talking about HTS, have you seen Al-Jolani lately? His attire, his new dress shirt, blazer, coat, nice professional look from Al-Jolani. He's ditching the green attire, the fatigues, the Zelensky outfit, and he's going with a more professional look. You know what happened here? They were reading all of the social media posts comparing Al-Jolani to the Green Goblin. And they said, the globalists, the powers that be said, yeah, we can't go the same route as Zelensky. We can't do the Zelensky green Castro Che Guevara look with Jolani. We have to do something different. Let's just suit him up. Let's give him a dress shirt and some nice slacks, some nice dress shoes. And let's not do the whole Zelensky shtick. It's not going to work. They're already making fun of us. So that's what they've done with Al-Jolani. They've suited him up, made him a professional head chopper, a nice dressed, a sharp dressed man. Everybody's talking about their sharp dressed man. ZZ Top. Anyway, yeah, he's a sharp dressed terrorist now, huh? Anyway, that's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like what I am wearing in this video. The link to the Duran shop is in the description box down below. Take care.